Again, this is MYDYR, YaHuWaH, Doña Ramina Shak Reeve. And I wanted to look more at the prophetic markers for the 2024 Great American Eclipse that occurred on April the 8th, 2024. Today is April the 29th, 2024, so the eclipse has passed, and this is not a prediction of what was going to happen on April the 8th, 2024, as I have said. But I want to show you some prophetic markers according to the scriptures using the 2024 Great American Eclipse. And then I want to show you how this is going to link with the Southern Baptist Convention, Mike Pence, former VP. This is going to also go along with the Vatican. Lots of heavy Vatican stuff going on here. And then I'm going to talk about my personal experiences with Southern Baptists in relation to the issues I'm about to discuss in regards to child trafficking, murder, how Mike Pence and the Southern Baptist Convention have been very intricately linked for years. I know secret things about Michael Pence that you do not know. I'm going to also go over some Indiana sex cases that the Southern Baptist Convention was covering up and how they've really been going on for so many more years than they're telling you. I want to also get into Tory Smith, and I want to do a whole lot more as we continue on. You're watching footage from April the 8th by WHAS Louisville, Kentucky, of the Indiana portion of the eclipse, because the totality area was not in the Louisville area. I am very familiar with the Louisville area as we continue on, and you should be watching footage of the excitement of people over the eclipse, but they're not thanking YaHuWaH for it. And I am telling you that this crescendo towards world events colliding, the Vatican trying to bring peace to the world, and the Pope Francis cannot do it. You've got many players of the world involved in this. The 2024 eclipse did pose risk, such as telecommunications risk, such as traffic risk. That day, though, martial law could have occurred on that day because of these issues of millions of people converging on these areas like Indianapolis, Little Rock, all these areas, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, Eagle Pass, that were in the totality area of the eclipse. And, you have to be careful when you go to these events, because at any particular time, they could care less if you're stuck on any interstate highway or any state highway. The Oklahoma video should have told you that when they want your vaccine passport and they want your New World Order papers and you have not taken your vaccine, you're going to be taken on a bus and put into an internment camp, according to an insider from Oklahoma from back in 2009, H1N1. And we know that more pandemics are coming. They're going to create more. The Vatican is going to tell you again to vax. I'm going to show you how Southern Baptist pastors have deceived millions into getting the vax. Pastors like Robert Jeffries, who I don't have on here, Juan Sanchez, Mark Dever of the Nine Marks churches, have all deceived many millions of members into getting this dangerous mark of the beast vax. It is, if you don't believe it's the mark of the beast, I have maintained, according to the Byzantine text of Revelation 16, that the vaccine is in a series of marks that are leading to the final build-up, to the final mark. And you should just about now have seen or are going to see the diamond ring of the eclipse in the totality area, in the Indianapolis area, and in nearby areas. As we go into the video, I am going to show you how Indianapolis is in the center point of the line of the path of totality of the 2024 Great American Eclipse. I'm going to show you St. Peter's Vatican Square in Vatican City, and then I'm going to show you Market Square in Indianapolis, which is very similar to Vatican Square. There's going to be a huge link between the Vatican and what goes on at the Southern Baptist National Convention meeting in Indianapolis in June, which you will see a lot of these screenshots I have taken and provided in video form. And in part 2 of this Indianapolis programming for the 2024 Great American Eclipse that happened on April the 8th, and the prophetic markers from Scripture and from current world events that are linking to the path of this eclipse in its totality area. And so I'm going to recount to you shortly here my experience with Southern Baptist pastors. I am a former Southern Baptist Convention insider. I have been a pastor in churches. I've been a youth minister. I've been pulpit supply. I have been a college minister and many things. And I have seen the horrible experiences on staffs of churches that would befuddle you. You're about to see one Southern Baptist pastor I more recently had an encounter with from November or December 2016. And really until I was able to get out of the membership of that church successfully in October 2018. He put me through 18 months of resist. After I joined in March, I wanted out of it a month later because they were telling me I could not travel and street preach and I could not go and preach the gospel on the streets and minister to the homeless, that I had to be under them. And so this is why I'm telling you, this man has himself committed lots of sex crimes. This man has slept with the wives of people in the congregation and have had them murdered and framed as a suicide. I started learning this in March 2017 when one supposed member supposedly committed suicide after having an altercation. This man probably slept with the man's wife. I'm telling you almost exactly what really happened. Then the man confronted him about it. Then he had him killed, murdered. And I can testify to the very truth. He knew after his sermon on the Revelation 13, which he says the mark of the beast is not a microchip. The Pope's not the Antichrist. There's nothing wrong with the Pope. And then him mentioning things about cutting a deal with the Pope to get his missionaries into Qatar and Bahrain. He has made secret dealings with the Pope. He'll never tell you the truth about that, even though he spoke it in April 2018. And I'm going to talk about my molester, Harold E. Ochester, pastor of Great Hills Baptist Church, Austin, Texas. He molested me around the year of 1968 or 1969 or thereabouts. Now, you will see that Harold Ochester retired from that in 2018, 2019, and Michael Lewis took over after having been on staff there for a long time. But I am going to tell you that Dawid and I, in September, July or August 2021, Dawid came to Texas with me from Montana, and he preached with me out in front of the Great Hills Baptist Church. I went there to confront Harold Ochester. I went there to confront the church. An elder of the church came out, and then he turned around. And, as you're able to pause and look at the evidence I've shown you, pause, play, pause, replay, to get what you need to verify what I'm telling you is the truth. And an elder came out, and we confronted it. He wanted to shake my hand, and I refused to shake his hand. I told him, "You're no brother of Christ of mine if you're in the Southern Baptist Convention. You're not a believer." And he felt hurt by that, but I told him, "You're not a brother of mine." I said, "Would you get your congregation vaccinated?" He said, "Well, I had to take a fax in order to get my 63 employees in Oklahoma, keep them working. Now you're about to see clips, or rather we'll talk about, is Mike Pence. Now, there are clips by Tory Smith, who we believe died in 2017, and I am showing you his very last video. But before that, I'm going to show you some Indiana clips about Southern Baptist sex cases.
University of Indianapolis just sent us a statement tonight saying that Father Marcotte has never been employed by the university. As Emily just mentioned, an investigation by the Houston Chronicle and the San Antonio Express shows that 220 leaders or even volunteers and the Southern Baptist Convention have also been convicted of sexual misconduct. That includes 6 men here in Indiana. 3 of them have already served their time, but the others remain behind bars tonight.
Ashley, thank you. Right now at 5 o'clock, the Southern Baptist Convention names at least 15 Indiana cases on a former secret list of accused abusers in the church. The 205-page database was published last night, comes after an explosive report found the church mishandled allegations of sexual abuse for the past 2 decades. The list names cases right here in Indianapolis, Hammond, Lafayette, Columbia City, Idaville, Yorktown, and more. Survivors and advocates have called for a public database of abusers.
I want to thank you for the support and prayers and awareness that you brought to what's going on in our country about child trafficking. I think this is going to be my last video for a while. I can barely see. I can only stand up for a few minutes and then I have to lay back down. I can't drive anymore. I'm just so exhausted all the time. And I just want to thank you for all your support. It's been a long road trying to bring awareness. A long road. But it's okay. You know, you can't really expect to fight an army of 500,000. Tried. I tried. But it just doesn't work, does it? It just doesn't work. Thank you. I love you.
Now to a shocking claim that one of the country's largest Christian denominations suppressed, ignored, and stonewalled sexual abuse allegations for nearly 2 decades. A scathing new report commissioned by the Southern Baptist Convention describes extensive cover-ups by senior leaders who were, quote, singularly focused on avoiding liability. Here's CBS's Nikki Batiste.
At just 8 years old, Hannah Kate Williams says her father, a Southern Baptist pastor, began sexually abusing her.
I disclosed to SBC leadership and was promised it would be taken care of and it would never happen again, but it did.
Now, a 7-month independent investigation revealed for almost 2 decades, survivors of abuse contacted the Southern Baptist Convention Executive Committee to report child molesters and other abusers, only to be met time and time again with resistance, stonewalling, and even outright hostility. The 288-page report also found the SBC kept a secret running list of accused Baptist ministers to avoid being sued, even as the committee publicly claimed it didn't have the authority to create such a list. More than 400 people on it were believed to be affiliated with the SBC at some point. And allegations of abuse went up to the very top, including a sexual assault claim against former SBC President Johnny Hunt, which he denied in a Facebook post Sunday night.
But what
as a survivor, would you like to see change?
I would like to see leaders taking the recommendations of outside experts, not as attacks on their beliefs, but as tools to protect those in their care.
In a statement, the SBC's executive committee said it was reviewing the report and is, quote, committed to doing all we can to prevent future instances of sexual abuse in churches. Williams filed a lawsuit against the SBC on Friday.
I was called a liar. I was called mentally deranged, incompetent, an enemy of God.
We reached out to Williams' father, but have not heard back. In the past few months, I've spoken with about a dozen other men and women who say they were sexually abused by church leaders between the ages of 9 and 14. But the statutes of limitations in their cases have expired. John?
Nikki Batiste. Thank you, Nikki.
The next clips are going to talk about the prophetic markers of past history when you had the 1811 eclipse and other eclipses and earthquakes that followed from 1811 to 1812. A lot of this centers around the New Madrid fault and all of the damage. You'll see some ranges of the effect of the earthquakes all after the eclipse all the way out to the deep south and even into Florida somewhat. This ought to be of really grave concern for you as you see the judgments of YaHuWaH that are going to happen. He's going to shake the world because of events like this. Mike Pence, Southern Baptist politicians, and sex trafficking and murder.
It was the most powerful earthquake ever recorded on that continent. One of the most violent and prolonged in human memory. The first shock struck at 2 o'clock in the morning of December 16. As the land heaved, there was a sound as a distant thunder, eerie lightning-like flashes burst into the black sky. Dense sulfurous vapor rising from the earth smothered the dawn, plunging the day into impenetrable night, and the shock waves rolled on. When the infernal mist lifted, it revealed a hellscape theretofore unimaginable. For hundreds of miles around, the earth roared and rolled in great waves like a breeze-swept wheat field. Huge forests crashed to the ground. Great fissures yawned before those who would flee, making chasms so broad no horse could jump them. Nearby waters reversed their currents, then surged forward again in mountainous tidal waves. Boats were swallowed. Entire islands disappeared. New islands emerged. Inland, gigantic lakes vanished as their beds rose into the air, and thousands of acres of dry wasteland became swampland in seconds. All day, the earth vomited sand and white quartz, leaving spectral white mountains in the wake. Rivers changed their courses as topography in all directions was transformed beyond recognition. The quake was felt over 1,000 miles away, where clocks stopped and church bells tolled and windows rattled and chimneys toppled. And the awesome event had only begun. For more than a year afterward, earthquakes continued in the region. And then state-of-the-art seismographs registered 1,874 shocks during the first 3 months alone. 8 of those shocks were classified as violent. 3 of them would have produced, listen to this, 8 to 10 on the Richter scale. But this was more than a century before there was a Richter scale. For the 3 successive super earthquakes, which I have just described, occurred December 16, 1811, and the following January 23, and the following February 7. Had they happened today, where they happened then, the result would have been an unimaginable Holocaust. And yet, because there were so few in the region in those days, this nation soon forgot the most spectacular seismic occurrence in all American history. San Francisco? Oh, no. No, these quakes were far greater than the San Francisco shockwaves of 1906. The earthquakes of which you've just learned stopped clocks in Charleston, South Carolina, and set church bells tolling in Richmond, Virginia, and rattled windows in Washington, D.C., and toppled chimneys in Cincinnati, Ohio. They were felt over millions of square miles, awakened people as far away as Boston and Quebec City. They turned their epicenter inside out and turned the Mississippi River into a raging sea. And they began, these quakes. They originated only a few miles from what is now St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis, Missouri. And now you know the rest of the story.
Clips. So you've seen some Tory Smith clips. How many times did he mention Michael Pence, Indianapolis police, sheriffs, military? They're all involved. I don't know that he ever really named any Southern Baptist pastors as much as I've done research on this, but I am able to tell you that he wasn't going to know that they were pastors. And he probably did reach out before I believe he was killed in 2017 to some of the pastors. I have been involved, and they're going to have the convention, and you're going to see Mike Pence so intricately linked with Southern Baptist in 2018. At the end of these clips, you're going to see he says he's a Southern Baptist. Then in this year's article, 2024, he says he's not a Southern Baptist. What is Mike Pence? I have information that seems to suggest that he is a member of a 9 Marks church in Washington, D.C. under Capitol Hill Baptist pastor Mark, the Duke Blue Dever. I will maintain that. His wife dropped me that information when she pretended to be a true believer, trying to transport us from Bristol, Virginia, all up the state towards D.C. But so they operate in disguises. Anyway, the convention plans to meet up again in Indianapolis in 2028. Do you think Christ is going to wait that long so that they're able to do it? What? So that the Southern Baptists can announce and say that they have outwardly expressed solidarity with the Vatican finally after the 1999 Catholics and evangelicals confession.
Hello everyone. I'm sorry I've been running late with this report. I did do a typed out report on Monday. A friend of mine sent me a printer, and so all this that I'm about to read now, I put on a printed page, and I send a copy to the governor's wife, the Attorney General of Indiana's office, and the Willie County prosecutor. And you can see on my face that my mom says I don't look like the same person at the beginning of July that I look like at the beginning of June. But heaven says I'm not going to die, so I don't even care if I do. One way or another, it doesn't matter. This has been such a long, because I was exposed to this MYDYR in January of 2013. And at the Arlington, Virginia location, and that night I was sodomized by 7 men, while 54 children were gang raped and murdered in the same room. And it's just been a hell of a battle ever since. I wish this were over. Okay, this report is for last week, June 24th, in Indianapolis. 12 children were gang raped by a group of 32 men, a total of 47 times. Michael Pence raped 2 boys. Greg Zeller raped 1 boy. and 1 girl. Douglas G. Carter raped 2 girls and 1 boy. 8 others from the ISP were there, and they all raped children. 8 from the IMPD, they were all there, and they all raped children. 3 Indiana National Guardsmen, 3 CIA, 5 FBI, and 2 Army Special Ops. Sorry, I just don't feel very good at all. Now, last Friday, there were 186 children brought to America by 3 sources: SOCOM, AFRICOM, and the Air Force, and then distributed to 21 locations. Child number 1 in Indianapolis was a 4-year-old Argentinian girl. She was murdered. She was gang raped a total of 72 times and then murdered by a CIA agent named David from Indianapolis. Child number 2 is a 4-year-old boy from Chile, who was raped a total of 59 times and murdered by Douglas G. Carter, Superintendent of the Indiana State Police. Child number 3 is a girl from China. She was raped a total of 65 times and then murdered by Indiana State Police Officer number 4. Child number 5 was a 5-year-old girl from China, and she was raped 67 times and murdered by Indiana State Trooper number 3. Child number 5 was a 5-year-old girl from Africa. She was raped 71 times and murdered by Indianapolis Municipal Police Department Officer number 1. Child number 6 is a 5-year-old boy from Africa who was murdered by Michael R. Pence. This child was raped a total of 56 times. Child number 7 was a 5-year-old boy from China, raped 63 times, murdered by a CIA agent named Thomas from Indianapolis. As Thomas, he and Pence and the other guy named David, the other CIA agent, they also like to rape and murder children in his home, and then Thomas throws them into a tub, and they eventually dissolve, and then he flushes them down the Indianapolis sewer. And then that's 17 times.
Usually when the president or vice president speak, people line up for a seat. But that was not the case for Vice President Mike Pence at his appearance at the Southern Baptist Conference today. Some attendees chose prayer instead. Our David Goins reports.
The Southern Baptist Convention in downtown Dallas is just about to wrap up its 2-day conference. Vice President Mike Pence's remarks this morning, certainly the major event, but it also reveals a growing internal division for Southern Baptists about the outside influence of elected leaders. Pence spoke for about 30 minutes in what amounted to a midterm stump speech touting the record of President Trump's administration over the last year and a half. Most notably, Pence celebrated the summit this week with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and the tentative agreement to denuclearize the Korean peninsula. He also did touch on topics that are important to social conservatives, emphasizing his pro-life commitment and Trump's decision to move the U.S. Embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. Pence, himself a Southern Baptist, also stressed the need to keep sharing the faith.
Preach the word, in season and out of season. Always be prepared to give a reason for the hope that you have.
While that message of faith was no doubt well received, there are a number of Southern Baptist attendees who really didn't want the vice president here today or any other elected leader for that matter.
I would put myself kind of cautiously in that category. It's not a statement on my political convictions. I just didn't come here for that. I came here to celebrate what God's doing in and around the world.
But the vice president did not wade into some of the other issues Southern Baptists are struggling with, including the role of women in the church and making sure allegations of abuse are handled properly within their seminaries. In Dallas, David Goins, Channel 8 News.